Welcome back, everyone, to the Word Traction podcast. If if you start sensing vertigo at some point during this episode, it's because Substack has done me dirty about 3 times earlier today, this morning, and cut off recordings and all sorts of things. So at that point, the camera may be flying off of the deck where I'm sitting right now. My apologies for anybody that has fear of heights or motion sickness, but we'll try to marshal through this thing. This The title of the episode. This is DEI Fridays, after all, and the DEI portion of this is racial profiling. But the original title of the podcast was "F Me Twice." And after all of the things I went through this with this recording earlier, it's "Fuck Me Twice." Of course, it would be "F Me 39 times" because Donald Trump has brought us down the road to this particular point in the path 38 times before. Like, yeah, we got a deal. It's signed. We're waiting for the ink to dry. It's going to be the best deal ever. Nothing like whatever that black Muslim president guy did. No, no, no. JCPOA. No, no. This is a masterful deal. Just wait. And I think it's going to happen. It could happen in 5 minutes, or it might be after the weekend, setting up my sons with a new opportunity to manipulate the oil prices and bag another $1 billion. So that would be the F Me Twice part of this podcast. Uh, he's doing it again. You can't, I mean, I get, F Me Twice comes from fool me once, shame on you, fool me twice, shame on me. Meaning, if we're surprised at the bad behavior, consistent for Donald Trump, at the lie upon fabrication with a lie for the dessert portion of the program. That's all we get. And of course, that gives license for each and every member of his administration, including Todd Blanche, his personal attorney disguised as the attorney general, um, Pastor Pete Hegseth, and the rest of them, just one lie after another, trying to be creative about it with a kind of a smug grin, like we're all in on the joke. This is all political theater. But what they're doing has real world consequences for you, for me, and for the country because of the march to fascism. So, if there was a wink and a nod with, a twinkle in Ronnie Reagan's eye about no arms for hostages, that seems like a kindergartner's game right now. If any of you people on the younger end of the spectrum aren't aware of Ronald Reagan's arms for hostages deal, that was with the last major trip that we made to the Persian Empire. Look into it. It's kind of fun. Colorful characters. Ollie North, admirable, admirable, Admiral Poindexter, really named Poindexter. Great admiral, but he got himself into some shit. So yeah, if you want to do a deep dive on a historical subject that has entertainment value and is perhaps instructive on, no more foreign wars, no more wars in places you can't pronounce, then this would be if yeah, a prelude to a kiss, but a kiss where they don't respect you in the morning after all the fun stuff happens, including, petroleum jelly, which, not surprisingly, with the name of it, is a petroleum byproduct. So Vaseline, as I was, looking at making some unfair comparisons between Lindsey Graham and your illustrious president, Donald J. Trump, it made me think, I don't know why, because of What other products come from the oil that is being manipulated by Trump and by the Iranians? Petroleum jelly, Vaseline. Now you're skiing and you need something to keep your lips moist. That's one way to use it. And there are other more, you would call more exciting ways to perhaps use it. But kids, petroleum based products, there are some downsides to those. So, what I would suggest in my role as sort of an, I have the equal amount, I have an equal amount of medical training as does your HHS leader, RFK Jr. So, in my role as your medical tutor, your shaman, if you will, is use water-based lubricants, right? KY, perfectly fine. So, petroleum-based Vaseline, it's tricky. And what you're doing, in a way, is you're rewarding terrorists by using the petroleum-based products, so use the KY instead. So there's the end of the health section of this program, and we're going to move on now to the title portion, which is Barney Rubble's Predicate. Who is Barney Rubble, you might ask? Barney Rubble is Mark Wayne Mullen. He is the not still newly appointed, the current head of Homeland Security, right? DHS, attacked by a bug, not staying long. Head of DHS, Mark Wayne Mullen. He is the former senator from Oklahoma, who has absolutely zero business in any job related to policing, military, intelligence, certainly intelligence, or any of those functions. He has no training and no core competence in any aspect of the job. But that's the Trump administration. He needs loyalists that say yes, sir, and hit the ground running, perpetuating lies immediately. Which Mark Wayne Mullen, he is crafting this predicate to attack Black and brown people at the World Cup. You would say, I don't get it. How do you expect Donald Trump to maximize the economic benefit for him, for his family, if we have some immigration conflagration in the middle of these here games? Well, I'm happy you asked. Think about sanctuary cities. Right? If you look at the host cities for these here, I'm talking about American soil, wonderful in Mexico. Mexico is a beautiful, beautiful country. They're in the historic stadium that's been renovated in Mexico City. What do they call it? Azteca, maybe. It's really high altitude, and but don't bet all your money on teams that train ordinarily at sea level, thinking that the Mexican team or others similarly situated will automatically be able to win on endurance alone because it's 2026. These people have better supplements, better blood doping, and also can afford to train at altitude if they so choose. It's kind of like back in the old days in the NBA when you're going into, there was more edge on it because there was less AI and less sharp money. You could make a few bucks in basketball games going into the Mile High City, uh, which uh, which I heard is something that some people used to do. Okay, but Mark Wayne Mullen, Barney Rubble. The predicate is thus that sanctuary cities, including Boston, New York, Los Angeles, and others, is code word for any city that is run by a person of color as mayor and which has a Democratic Party governor. So that is case in point for L.A., New York, and Boston. Other stops along the way, Kansas City. No, you get too many Jethros. at various levels of government, and they are bootlickers for Trump, that even if the mayor in the host city is a Democratic Party member, there's going to be people in the governor's office or otherwise, or senators, that are going to be throwing flack and saying, you better listen to DJT. This is his World Cup. It's his birthday. It's his birthday. Be a decent human being, or something like that. Yeah. So what we're going to see, and this, I'm not offering a solution because I can't fire the head, a cabinet level leader in the government. I just did my best to show that RFK Jr. doesn't have any particular medical chops, because I know much more about vaccines. Give them to people, and then people don't die of measles. Done and dusted. Wear a mask, and don't be a fascist. Done and dusted. But in Boston, in Los Angeles, there will be high visibility. Think about LA, US, first game tonight in LA against Paraguay. The ice, which was before Mark Wayne came in, that was still Kristi Noem's bailiwick. And Tom Homan still riding shotgun. The the mini-me, Gregory Bobino, who was let go, now is making noises about running for president. That's the midget that runs around in Nazi coats, So it gets better and better. If people weren't being hurt, it would be entertaining. But people are being hurt on a daily basis and killed. We are not that far removed from losing Renee Good and Alex Preddy. And all of this is the interruptions you're going to see care of the sanctuary city mob, is trying to magawash the murders of innocent American civilians ahead of the midterm elections to dissuade people from focusing on the Epstein files. Now, that's being fumbled around right now, and there are many people of goodwill that are on this very platform. Ellie Leonard, there are people that are working night and day. Aaron Parnas, who are dedicated to making sure that the Epstein files doesn't die under the weight of the fire hose, the shit falling out of the AI generated F-35 that Donald Trump graced us with earlier or at the end of last year. But you will hear as a justification, this is, it's going to create an international incident. But what the fuck did they care? MAGA, Mark Wayne Mullen. I work for Donald J. Trump, and he said, that's all he cares about. He's going to lick boots until he gets an attaboy and a payday. So, and there are paydays aplenty. Trump already has all of his money. He's already, you don't go into an event like this. Any two-bit hustler, two-bit retired game show host, former real estate mogul from New York knows you don't go into a tournament with Gianni Infantino and not take your money up front, because he'll fuck you too. Gianni, not Johnny, Gianni is as corrupt as Trump. He learned from one of the very best, Sepp Blatter, who was the head of FIFA for a very long time. He was indicted into obscurity. Of course, all of the people in those cases that were brought in a year before Trump 1.0 in 2015, with some good investigative work by the Obama administration, they've all since been pardoned, or they will be in time to take their seats for this year tournament. Don't you worry. The last randos that I talked about a couple weeks ago, those two brothers, from Argentina, just corrupt fixers that were the former Fox host that just got pardoned. It's magical. It's and and people in that instance, people got killed in Qatar, Qatar, where they had the last World Cup, and they brought in all that slave labor to build those stadia ahead of the games, and lots of people died from predominantly from India and other such places. It was a bad scene. It was well reported at the time, and like everybody, like you're guilty of, like I'm guilty of, you turn the page, and if you looked back, the figures and the reporting, just like a murdered a murdered former Washington Post reporter murdered at the hands of the Saudi regime, the world moves on because, especially particularly in the Donald Trump era, there's just so much shit all the time. So you have a human, very human self-defense mechanism to say overload, you know, too much shit. How do I stay focused? Right. So you need to discipline yourself. What I always comment on in the feed here, message discipline. When you're laughing your ass off, you're like, oh yeah, the guy that can't shut the fuck up during a podcast episode, but this is something different. This is an essay. Okay. I'm gonna keep telling I'm gonna go to my grave, perhaps tonight, telling you it's an essay. This is a different format, right? I'm not providing breaking news here. Except, well, the broken news, I don't know what the final score was, but when I last checked before the last failure of the camera, Canada was trailing 1-0 to Bosnia Herzegovina. That's one of, Canada, one of the other host countries. Mexico, they beat South Africa, which is like, you know, uh, Hulk Hogan going into a Brownie convention and taking a hostage. There, South Africa is not a highly rated soccer team. I'm not disrespecting the individual players. They just don't have the resources and the recruiting and training program that many other countries do. Ones that do, if you're looking for, here's I can do some tips. I admit I am not a soccer fanatic, but I was crazy enough about the game all the nearly 3 decades I lived in Miami and Venezuela. And in Miami, I get up at 7 in the morning, which was still getting up. Now I get up at 3 in the morning, but that's getting old. Going to watch a game in a bar in downtown Miami at 8:30 in the morning. That's going off at 3 in the afternoon in London between Arsenal and someone else. And yes, the bar was open. It was wide open at that point. But of course, that was in the late '70s and early '80s. So that was some days ago. Yeah, it's a wonderful game. It's a beautiful game. It is the beautiful game. But one of the most amazing parts about football soccer is that diversity is one of its greatest assets. If you look at the U.S. team this year and 2 events ago, when we were involved in it, we had both times more than 50% of our players were men of color on our team in the United States, and the in the MAGA universe. Uh, you'll find in some teams, on some Nordic teams. I don't know the exact percentages on the German team. You see more Aryan Nation kind of looking dudes, maybe handsome devils, fit as can be. But here, let's see. So, the big dogs, no breaking news here. The big dogs in the tournament are Argentina Spain and France. They're 1, 2, 3 on most people's lists. A fourth, you could, let's say, how about Great Britain? Right? I was joking earlier. Wouldn't it be wonderful? I don't know how it works in the draws, but for the U.S. to face our former jailers in Great Britain, for Great Britain to face the colonists in the finals in these here United States that were once theirs. Well, they weren't theirs. The United States did then and still does belong to indigenous people, but they were controlled at that point by the Her Majesty's government, the the British Empire. But that was a different time, right? That was George. That was fun times with sailing ships and all of that stuff. And Christopher Columbus, who was very much dedicated to diversity in his own special way. That's why he is so revered in no part of this community except this part of this nation, except for people that hate The Sopranos. And who else? Yeah, nobody. Yeah. So the big dogs again. We'll put Great Britain in 4. We'll put France in 3, Spain in 2, and Argentina in first place. I'm just making up my own draw now. But that's no value. That's no fun. I'm going to tell you who I'm betting for before I say goodbye, which will be soon. I promised the last time, right? Just like DJT. Trust me, it'll work out just fine. U.S. is a perfectly good team, and they could do very well. Germany is strong, but perhaps not quite up to it this term. By rights, it's not on a man by man, and then you bet against Brazil and Colombia at your peril because they're good teams. Some of them are more defensive minded and can't really generate it. If they can win a 1-0 game, but if they have 2 goals against, they're done. One that may fall into that category a little bit, but I don't have the odds with me right now, but I'll look at some of those tonight and I'll post something if I find a good number, because now I have to, in order to learn more about, poly market and such things, I need to compare them against 3 other big, like Chris and a couple other the international uh, sites, and try to get the best number possible and see what I can do to if there's a I'm not a I'm not a big enough whale to manipulate any number particularly, if you're trying to play games like that at the World Cup with the amount of money, with the amount of liquidity in these markets, you're fucking kidding yourself. You know, that's why people attack, uh, you know, girls, um, girls badminton from Singapore, sectionals, because, there are willing bettors in the market. The liquidity is enough to make it interesting, but there's not enough to completely wash you out of it. So, yeah. So I guess if I was going to take a bit of a shot, how about Ecuador? Just take a look at it if you're curious. I'll fire a couple notes in late tonight or tomorrow morning and see what is supported there. We'll have the result of what Canada did or didn't do today. We have the U.S. Guess is at I'm going to guess it's at 9 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time today, and that's Paraguay. They're not the class of South America. I mean, with Argentina, Brazil, Colombia, there's a lot of tough competition. I used to watch. Uruguay quite a bit. 20 years ago, they were a nice, a tough team. Chile shows up once in a while, but we should win. I think the last odds I saw this morning were the U.S. was favored, but it was something like -110 or something like that. So it wasn't substantial. Yeah. So enough about degenerate gambling and such things in prediction markets. I'll be taking a look. If I see anything interesting, I'll drop it in the chat related to this underneath this video or not. And yeah, so rounding out, we got the F me twice. We got the healthcare advice as far as what kind of personal lubricant to use, as depicted by two champions such as Donald J. Trump and Lindsey Graham. Then we took a turn to the title section of the program, which was Barney Rubble's Predicate. Barney Rubble being the caricature, the stand-in for the illustrious Mark Wayne Mullen, who is the head of the most important agency. Now, all of the funds they pat the Senate like cowards. The most handsome coward in Washington, John Thune, was there getting the rest of the money in. The Republicans got enough money to fund, well, too much money, but they funded all the way through the end of Trump's term. So if ever anything happens related to terrorism, border, whatever, then and MAGA is whining about Jesus Christ. If Joe Biden had been on the wall where he belonged, yeah, you can say fuck yourself, right? Or Lindsey Graham, whatever your predilection or delight might be. Yeah, so they got all the money. They're out of excuses. They've got a declining asset for Vladimir Putin sitting in the White House, and they're trying. There's going to be shenanigans on top of shenanigans going into the midterms. I'm not going to do my preachy. I'm going to save you the 3 minutes that I'm ordinarily reminding people about the things they can do as individual citizens and voters to make sure that they're properly situated to vote. We'll do that some other day. Collective action still matters. And try, I decided, I said, I'm not a huge soccer/football fan, but it's World Cup. Trump and the MAGA folks are going to fuck it up in a number of ways. The corruption's already, that's already sorted. That's already sordid and sorted on both levels. But it is a beautiful game. It's going to be hot. Some of these young men should probably be able to handle it, especially if you live in freaking, I was going to say Maracaibo, but Venezuela is not in it. But in Medellin, then it's hot there too. It's mountainous, but you get down in the valleys, it's pretty cool. Yeah. So the teams I'm going to be rooting for. The individual I'm rooting for, of course, is that Somalian referee who the dream perhaps of his entire life, besides having beautiful children, was snatched from him by the Trump administration because they said there was a security risk of allowing him. He was, the highest rated African referee in the world last year. And they turned him around at MIA, interrogated him for 11 hours, and then shipped him to Turkey so he could make his way back to Somalia. If you look at any of the welcome home ceremonies, they embraced him. They filled football stadia just to let him walk in so they could cheer him. It was absolutely beautiful. And we know that there's a Somalia hate coming out of the White House because Ilhan Omar just owns a large part of the very small amount remaining in Donald Trump's between his ears. If there's any brain, any mind left, then Ms. Omar owns that real estate, and he's triggered as a motherfucker all the time. And also, I hope you're sitting down. Most of the people that were born in Somalia are have a much healthier skin tone than I have. It's an African country, so breaking news, predominantly black. It's an easy target for Trump, and of course, all of the teams that he put on the shit list were black, predominantly black countries, not all in Africa. Iran, for some obvious reasons. But the four teams that are on the shit list, not allowing any of their fans to come, some will be here because they're super rich and they'll pay somebody off. But it's Ivory Coast, Cote d'Ivoire, it's Senegal, who's got a hell of a soccer program, a legacy in that country. Iran, good luck with that. But Haiti, I was riding today. I was in an Uber in Greater Boston with a gentleman, not quite as old as I am, but in my firing line, and I was talking to him about he's not a big soccer fan himself, but I was just congratulating him more maybe profusely because I, as an American, as a real American, not MAGA, not a fascist, not any member of the Republican Party right now, very badly behaved, but as an American citizen, a proud American citizen, it's embarrassing to see people treated poorly just because of the color of their skin. And your vice president victimized Haitians in the campaign with they're eating the cats and dogs, right? And your president only put gas and fire on top of that. And so all these people, well, all the years that I lived and worked in Miami, I had the occasion to run a few food and beverage operations in my youth. And the most reliable of all, I'm going to say men because the people that I hired, because the jobs were in hot places, late at night, and a lot of heavy lifting. So that's uh, an old white boy thing to say. But if I could, if there was a lineup of 12 people and I could hire a 40-year-old Haitian man ahead of, Miami, you can imagine the demographic mix. I would take over the cracker, the Cuban, the Venezuelan, the Colombian, whatever. I would hire the Haitian man because he would be there early, stay late, work his ass off. I'm not saying breaking records, not land speed records, steady workers. Hey, I need somebody to pick up a shift. Done. Yeah, but you're just coming off, you just work 12 hours straight. Head down, work hard. And so many of these men, I could name a whole bunch of them still. And this is, 30 plus years ago, more, that I could, read out their names because you review payroll, right? And I would think about them and I would say to myself now, as I did then, it was remarkable how many of these humble, spiritually intact, family loving men dealt with adversity to leave Haiti, to come to the United States, to just work 80 hours a week, every week if necessary. And they were all homeowners by the time they stopped working, but many of them didn't stop working. They just, they kept on rolling. And, their second or third child might be the first to graduate from college, and how much pride they had in that fact. Miami-Dade College, they got through. Anyways, that just made me think of it because Miami, one of the host cities, is it a sanctuary city? It's different because there's a lot of Trump overhang in Miami. And even though they elected their first Democratic mayor in Miami for 30 years, there's still a lot of MAGA because, Trump's just up the street in Mar-a-Lago. Yeah. So I said I was going to cut that short, and I went on a trip down uh, uh, Haiti Haitian appreciation voyage. And so back to the four teams that are excluded. Their fans are excluded by Donald Trump because we're at war with one of them. You can't argue too much if he thinks he's keeping terrorists out by banning ticket, by banning the people in Tehran who have enough money to fly into New York and stay at the Ritz may not be the greatest terrorist risks there are, right? Those people will pay their way around in any case. But there are so many active Hezbollah cells in Venezuela and in the Tri-Corner region, as we discussed on earlier podcasts, that if the supreme leader wanted to send visitors to our country that has inexperienced and incompetent leaders in FBI, DHS, and every other aspect, inexperienced leadership, if they wanted to send visitors, I'm not advocating for that. What I'm advocating for is doing a better job at hiring people that are up to the job. And that's not happening. So, yeah. Enough for today. Barney Rubble. Salute to Barney Rubble. Took a lot of flack from Fred Flintstone all those years. Married a hottie like Betty, and just kept his head down and did his thing. Right. So here's to Barney Rubble. Not to Mark Wayne Mullen, and wishing you all a beautiful night. We'll catch you sometime over the weekend. Tomorrow, maybe Saturday stratagems, but we'll see how it goes. Thank you, and kindly retweet, restack, subscribe, share with a friend, share on a different platform, etc. Thank you. I'm going to lean into the camera, try to shut it off, because if I do damage, I'm going to have to jump off the roof myself.